Hey, this is Nikki G, and welcome to Better Commander. Hey, we have 3 new commanders that I'm excited to build. A grandma, a lizard, and an elf who carries a small dog in her purse. Before we get too deep into cardboard today, consider subscribing to my channel. Every time someone subscribes, I stop crying into my cornflakes for a brief moment and stare out my window and utter, "Hot dog." Alright, let's start with Evelyn the Covetous. This grandma doesn't give presents at Christmas time. She exiles all your cards and gives you nothing but heartache. Truly, the season of receiving is upon us. Alright, Evelyn the Covetous is 2, a hybrid Jetmir mana, a black mana, and a hybrid Rakdos mana for a legendary creature, Vampire Rogue, 2/5, has Flash. Whenever Evelyn the Covetous or another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. Once each turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it if it was exiled by an ability you controlled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it. So as is tradition, we have 2 arts that we can pick apart here a little bit. I want to know the reason why in both arts she's stabbing a picture of herself. This makes no sense. Why have an artist come all the way down to New Capenna, you're schlepping all your gear down there, you paint a beautiful portrait of this beautiful lady, and then she stabs it. Alright? She's definitely a saucy golden girl. This old maid has seen it all and she wants whatever you got. So I know this from personal experience, but opponents hate this one easy trick to get you card advantage. I built a Paco and Haldan deck once, and it made everybody crazy that I was taking all their things. This lady's a little different, but that is their once per turn restriction. We should note that it's once per turn, not once per your turn. So if we pack Leyline of Anticipation and Vidalcan Ori in there, we can truly have a good time. We also want some cheap vampires that'll trigger her ability and that come with their own little bonuses. I mean, honestly, just type in vampire into Scryfall and you'll find a plethora of great vampires you can slot in. The most recent sets brought us Cemetery Gatekeeper, Falconwrath Pit Fighter, just to name a few. Cemetery Gatekeeper is 1 and a red. For a creature vampire, it's a 2/1, has first strike. When Cemetery Gatekeeper enters the battlefield, exile a card from a graveyard. Whenever a player plays a land or casts a spell, if it shares a card type with the exiled card, Cemetery Gatekeeper deals 2 damage to that player. This guy's awesome. A deck starring Evelyn is going to want to hold up mana, so we want instant, speed, counter magic, and removal. Remember, we can play 1 card per turn from those we exiled, so instants and cards with flash will help us maximize our efficiency. Overall, I think this is an awesome commander. If we go Vampire Tribal, we can lean into Aristocrats as well. Yeah, we have a bunch of vampires that fill that niche nicely with Blood Artist, Vindictive Vampire, Falconwrath Noble, among others. This seems like a powerful, fun commander that can be built in a number of different ways. Has built-in card advantage that scales with our opponent's decks, and it'll also make our opponents crazy, so there's that added bonus as well. How about Ognis, the Dragon's Lash? So this is 1, a hybrid Rakdos mana, a red mana, and a hybrid Gruul mana for a legendary creature, Viashino Warrior, which this guy was a dragon. It's a 3/3. It also has haste. Whenever a creature you control with haste attacks, create a tapped treasure token. This is an insane ability. There's plenty of hasty creatures, but why not give all of our creatures haste with this guy? For enchantments, we have Fervor, Rhythm of the Wild, Fires of Yavimaya, and Hammer of Perforos. There's a bunch of awesome creatures that grant us haste. Urabras the Hidden is 3 red for a legendary creature, Praetor. Creatures you control have haste. Creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. This would be awesome in this deck. And we have Dragon Lord Kolagon, so 4 black and a red for a legendary creature, Elder Dragon, flying and haste. Other creatures you control have haste. Whenever an opponent casts a creature or planeswalker spell with the same name as a card in his or her graveyard, that player loses 10 life. That will never come in handy in Commander, but whatever. How about Garna the Bloodflame? This is a really cool card. 3 black and a red for a legendary creature, Human Warrior. It's a 3/3 with flash. When Garna the Bloodflame enters the battlefield, return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere this turn. Other creatures you control have haste. Perforos Bronze Blooded is 4 and a red for a legendary creature, God. It's a 7/6 with indestructible. As long as your devotion to red is less than 5, Perforos is not a creature. Other creatures you control have haste. It also has 2 and a red. You may put a red creature card or an artifact creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. It'll also have haste. So this is kind of a cool sneak attack effect that can get our big finishers onto the battlefield fast. Then you got Samut, the Tyrant Smasher. She's 2 in Hybrid Gruul and a Hybrid Gruul mana. Legendary Planeswalker Samut. Starts with 5 loyalty. It just has a -1. Target creature gets +2/+1 and gains haste until the end of turn. Scry 1, and creatures you control have haste as a static ability. It's another cool Planeswalker to include in a deck like this. Is this the deck, finally, that Ulvenwald Oddity goes into? I really like this card, but I never saw what deck this could possibly go into. But it's 2 green for a creature beast. Has trample and haste. 5 green, transform Ulvenwald Oddity. Front side is a 4/4. So the backside is Ulvenwald Behemoth. It's got trample and haste. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 and have trample and haste, and it's an 8/8. I think this card would be awesome in this deck. I think it's probably like way too expensive, but and it's a bit of a Timmy card. But hey, man, listen, this is the stuff that I like. All right. So there's a couple routes we could go. I mean, we could give all our creatures haste. We could also use some good hasty creatures like Questing Beast. So Questing Beast is 2 and a green for a legendary creature beast. It's a 4/4, Vigilance, Death Touch, and haste. It's got a bunch of other text. Questing Beast can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Okay. Combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. Whenever Questing Beast deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target planeswalker that player controls. Or we could use our haste enablers and go with dragons. We can get out our big, nasty flyers and tramplers like Balefire Dragon and maybe 30 or so of the other 178 dragons that exist in these colors. Your treasures can power out their fat casting costs, and you can use Dragon Tempest as a win condition. Dragon Tempest is 1 and a red for an enchantment. Whenever a creature with flying enters the battlefield under your control, it gains haste until the end of turn. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals X damage to any target, where X is the number of dragons you control. Agnes is a nasty commander. But what the heck is up with this version, this art? Looks like How to Tame Your Dragon fanfiction crossover with Magic the Gathering. I don't know what's going on here. I mean, he's got like one goofy arm. He doesn't have any wings. He's just shooting out green fire for no reason. Looks like something out of Adventure Time. All right, let's talk about Jinnie Fey. Jinnie Fey is Jetmir's second. It's a hybrid Gruul mana, a green mana, and a hybrid Selesnya mana for a legendary creature elf druid 3/3. If you would create 1 or more tokens, you may instead create that many 2/2 green cat creature tokens with haste, or that many 3/1 green dog creature tokens with vigilance. This is any token, not just creature tokens. Oh man, this lady's an elf as well. So in the history of Magic, how many cards come with a 1/1 token and how many cards come with a 0/1 token? Well, there's about 600 or so. So we have Phylath and Avenger of Zendikar. They just got a little better. Oh my god, we broke Avenger of Zendikar. That's amazing. Skittering Invasion also got a little better. 7 colorless mana for a tribal sorcery Eldrazi. Put 5/0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens onto the battlefield. They have sacrificed this creature, add 1 to your mana pool. So you could actually create a few Eldrazi spawn and maybe a couple cats off of this guy. Maybe to power out your next big spell. Rapacious One is 5 and a red for a 5/4 creature Eldrazi drone with trample. Whenever Rapacious One deals combat damage to a player, put that many 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens onto the battlefield. They have sacrificed this creature, add 1 to your mana pool. So this guy used in a Brutaclad deck, and it would create a fair amount of tokens on attack, on damage, and we could transform those in Brutaclad. We can also transform them in Jinnie Fey. There's a bunch of other cards in these colors that create 0/1 Eldrazi spawn tokens. We have Growth Spasm, which is a pretty decent ramp spell. Nest Invader, Kozilek's Predator. These all make Eldrazi spawn and might be worth a look in a deck like this. Don't forget your living weapon cards. There's cards like Battered Skull and Caldra Complete. Quite a few that are worth running, and the Germ token can come in as a cat or a dog instead. I feel like a deck like this, you go a couple different ways, but I think Jinnie Fey would be all about assembling a mass of smaller creatures and then pumping them up with a Triumph of the Hordes or a Craterhoof Behemoth. Win conditions would be similar to Jetmir, and I think this actually might be a little better. Jinnie Fey makes your middling token creating spells like Captain's Call and Gather the Townsfolk way better when the tokens are 2/2 with haste or 3/1s with vigilance. We can never forget the heroic Jazal Goldmane. It's 2 white for a legendary creature, Cat Warrior, 4/4 with first strike. Pretty good stat line for 4 mana. It also has the activated ability 3 white. Attacking creatures you control get +X until the end of turn, where X is the number of attacking creatures. This can kind of go nuts in a go wide token deck. Speaking of which, also never forget Risk the Redeemed. So this is a hybrid green-white for a legendary creature, Elf Warrior. It's a 1/1. So 2 green, white hybrid tap, create a 1/1 green and white Elf Warrior creature token, or 4 hybrid Selesnya. I have to figure out a way to say this. Like, the hybrid mana is throwing me off today. For each creature token you control, create a token that's a copy of that creature. So if you assemble a mass of creatures, activate this, you can make them all cats with haste, and it's going to be a lot of power added to the board. Also especially dangerous in a Ginny Fade deck would be massive token creators, cards that create a lot of tokens like Martial Coup, Deploy to the Front, Nomad's Assembly, and Decree of Justice. Less so with Martial Coup unless you're casting it for less than X equaling 5. So Decree of Justice also for its cycle cost. These cards would be awesome because the cats come in with haste. This looks like a huge power surge onto the board and will help you finish off the last of your opponents, or just deal generally a ton of damage. This set is truly looking bonkers for Commander players. I kind of figured that a set using shards would be awesome. There's a lot of cool commanders coming out. A couple more I'll probably talk about pretty soon. Some of these I might just do a straight deck tech on if I get time to build the deck, especially Agnes. I think haste is awesome. It's so much fun in Commander to put a card out and your opponents are like, oh, I have to respond to this as it's being cast. I have to respond to it right now. Or I need instant speed removal to deal with it. I think in Commander sometimes people are used to things sitting out there and they can think about it and pontificate. Not so with haste, especially if you're casting hasty creatures, making treasure tokens, casting more hasty creatures. I think that'd be an awesome deck to build. Also, Evelyn's super interesting. But let me know what you guys think, or the cards you'd throw in the pile for these new Capenna build around commanders. I'm going to thank you all for watching, and this is going to be Nikki G from Better Commander signing off.